In this video, we're going to focus on the Boule, the gatekeepers of the African American community, the ones that sell y'all out for crumbs on the plate. Now remember, we talked about the black doctors from up Philadelphia, right? Remember this doctor right here. Y'all talking strong jaw structures now by chewing gum. Let's check out this doctor. Is it a man or female? I'll let y'all be the judge of that. But where are these people at now that had y'all lining up around the corner to take that jab? But yet the migrants don't have to line up around the corner to take the jab. Let's get into this video.
Are you surprised by the lack of response so far in the black and brown neighborhoods?
I'm disappointed. I didn't want to be a part of another meeting. I wanted to go out and do something.
And Dr. Ayla Stanford has been busy since. More than 2 weeks ago, she stepped up to provide coronavirus testing for Philly's predominantly black neighborhoods.
Being a physician scientist, I know that if you want to move the needle and affect change in those communities, you have to go where people are.
Now this Philly native is making national...
Let's take a look at the strong jaw structure that y'all say the teenagers are doing a gum challenge to try to get a strong jaw structure. Let's take a look at this, I don't know, man, woman, the one that had y'all lining up, taking that jab. I asked the question, where is she at now? Why haven't they pushed this agenda on the migrants that crossed the border a couple days ago? These are the gatekeepers of the African American communities, the Boule, the ones that sell y'all out. Let's go.
Headlines forming the Black Doctors COVID
meeting. I wanted to go out and do something.
And Dr. Ayla Stanford has been busy since. More than 2 weeks ago, she stepped up to provide coronavirus testing for Philly's predominantly black neighborhoods.
Being a physician scientist, I know that if you want to move the needle and affect change in those communities, you have to go where people are.
Now this Philly native is making national headlines, forming the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, working in a city where the virus's death rate is 54% among African Americans. We've seen them test at local churches like Enon Tabernacle Baptist, where they helped prominent pastor Alan Waller learn he was positive.
Going by the guidelines of exposed or symptoms, I would not have been tested.
Dr. Stanford's movement started with a few phone calls to friends and her own money. When you were at these churches and you see the lines wrapped around the church, you speak to someone and they say,
look at them laughing.
Thank you. What does that mean to you?
It warms my heart.
As of Monday, the consortium has raised $100,000, money that provides for more tests. What do you need from the city of Philadelphia? What do you need from the state of Pennsylvania?
Support.
The consortium will be in South Philly Tuesday. Dr. Stanford says they'll continue working until the cases and deaths fall and the hospitals are no longer in crisis mode. Brandon Hudson, NBC 10 News.
What y'all think about that? Where's she at? She was forcing the jab on the peoples. Where's she at? Remember, they was offering cheeseburgers, liquor, money, all types of shit. And then they awarded her with an award because she was able to go into the black community and sell her own people out. So they recognized her and gave her an award for that. Let's get into that.
Congress is recognizing the founder of the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. Today, Pennsylvania Congressman Brendan Boyle presented a congressional citation to Dr. Alice Stanford. Congress honored the group's outreach and humanitarian efforts in administering COVID-19 tests and vaccines to Philadelphia's black community during the pandemic. The consortium began operating 1 year ago.
And that's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. But remember, y'all was in lines, and then they got those Divine Nine losers. They got the Divine Nine losers that was involved with that too. I told y'all got to be aware of the Boule. It's serious. It's very serious in the black African American community. The Boule is here to sell you out, and I don't give a damn what nobody say. But let's get into this video here. of more house niggas selling more field niggas out.
Last week, the city cut ties with PFC as its largest
How is the line so drastically long like this?
Lines right around the corner, right?
The Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium is struggling to meet an influx of demand after the city severed ties with its largest vaccination partner.
Right now, there's like this huge wave. Everyone wants it. We don't have enough supply for the demand. We're getting 1,000 doses a week. There's over 35,000 people signed up, which would mean it would take us 35 weeks or greater than 2/3 of the year to get there.
Dr. Ayla Stanford founded the consortium to service Black communities who were hardest hit by COVID. Now, a recent scandal with Philly fighting COVID is further complicating her efforts to get the vaccine to Black Philadelphians.
How was the Black African American community hit the hardest when COVID came from China, from Wuhan? Make it make sense, y'all. Make it make sense.
Last week, the city cut ties with Dr. Ayla Stanford founded the consortium to service Black communities who were hardest hit by COVID. Now, a recent scandal with Philly fighting COVID is further complicating her efforts to get the vaccine to Black Philadelphians. Last week, the city cut ties with PFC as its largest mass vaccination partner. The startup was run by a 22-year-old with no medical credentials who admitted to taking home several vaccine doses for his friends.
What's happening is a lot of the people who are coming got their first dose from PFC and they're panicked. And they're wondering how they're going to get their second dose. PFC shutting down has been tough because the purpose was for us to be in Black communities where the impact had been the greatest. I can vaccinate anyone who wants it, but I need more vaccine because
How is it greater in the African American community? But yet y'all let the migrants come into the African American community unvaccinated. Make it make sense, y'all. Make it make sense. This dude lying. Look at the strong jaw structure of this dude. This is a dude here, y'all.
I can't afford to widen. Purpose was for us to be in Black communities where the impact had been the greatest. I can vaccinate anyone who wants it, but I need more vaccine because I can't afford to widen the health disparity by now not taking care of the group that needs it the most.
There's no other way to read that debacle than someone in the system giving a wink and a nod to someone and looking completely past qualified, credible sources.
Reverend Dr. Alan Waller says the debacle with PFC only reinforces distrust in Black communities.
Black people and vaccines, we have a righteous skepticism because of our history with medical community and just recently what we've experienced. We've had.
But yet y'all still lined up in droves around the corner to take the jab after you knew the history of our ancestors and what they went through on vaccinations. See, you even admitting that you know your history, but you're still falling victim of it. Pastor? Or should I say, are you part of the Boule?
Have a righteous skepticism because of our history with medical community and just recently what we've experienced.
Divine Nine, y'all see that? She's part of it too, the one that's taking the jab. See the one in the background with the pink hat on too? She's part of the Divine Nine too. Y'all see the shield on her hat? That's Atlas. Right there in the bottom right corner is Atlas, where the Most High said idol worshiping is a no-no, is a forbidden. But this elderly lady, and I guarantee you she go to church every Sunday too. Talking about this elderly lady that's part of the Divine Nine sitting down there in that chair taking the jab. Y'all see her shirt? Y'all see her hat? See her little pink scarf, her little pink mask? See the lady in the background, no disrespect to him, no, y'all, but these the people we have to look out for, y'all. These are the Boule, the gatekeepers in the African American community that's selling y'all out. Been selling y'all out for years. Let's go.
We've had good reason to raise concern. Our own local government showed the problems, the historic problems of racial disparity and foolishness when they awarded the Philly Fight piece to a 22-year-old non-medical student and went past a proven methodology in our community. On some level, this is her clean.
Here's another one here, y'all. See her hat in the red and white? Another part of the Divine Nine. These people are known to sell y'all out. And if y'all not paying attention, I'm bringing this video and I'm bringing awareness to the peoples. What to look out for in your community when it comes to African American people. You got these Divine Nine house niggas, the gatekeepers of the black African American community selling y'all out. Here's another member here in the red and white hat. These college sororities, black Greeks.
Cleaning up the mess, and the question is, will the city help build capacity around her so that she can do it effectively?
On Tuesday, the city announced it will open new mass clinics later this month. The city plans to vaccinate 500 people per day.
We collectively are up for the challenge. We just need more vaccine, more personnel, and sustainable funding to get it done.
In the meantime, community leaders say attitudes toward the vaccine are already starting to shift.
I believe that we ought to take the vaccine, and most people are beginning to believe that.
You know, I was going to have the vaccine, or I was going to die on something else. Who don't know? I'm 76 years old. It's just outweighed the pros outweigh the cons.
Reading that they're not injecting COVID into me. They've isolated the protein, so that was helpful. And also, I've been following Dr. Sanford, and so I put some trust into her.
That's another question. Why would you line up to take a jab that's putting a disease in you? Make it make sense, y'all. Make it make sense.
That she was actually thinking and caring about this community, and so wasn't going to do something to harm us.
Wow. Y'all hear that foolishness coming from that sister that's uneducated when it comes to history, as we would say, history. But let's get into this video when they had cheeseburgers, raffle tickets, and all types of shit going on for you to line up to take that jab. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Waiverhood. With Wayfair, finding your style is fun. Yeah.
A $100 savings bond in West Virginia, a $10,000 scholarship in Lancaster, California, free beer in New Jersey, donuts from Krispy Kreme, Shake Shack fries in New York City.
Just think of this when you think of vaccination.
And a drink in Connecticut. In a push to encourage Americans to get their vaccine, governments and businesses across the country are thinking outside the box. Recently, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine capturing much national attention. For Ohio residents who get their shots, the state is offering something in return, a shot at winning $1 million.
And the winner each Wednesday will receive $1 million.
And so far, state officials say the lottery has been a huge success.
This has been...
Do anybody know who that winner was? I'm asking questions. Do anybody know who that winner was who won that $1 million? They had all types of shit going on trying to throw foolishness shit y'all way. And some of y'all want for it. Some of y'all want for it.
Very successful. This past Friday was our highest vaccine administration day in 3 weeks. We were experiencing a 24% decrease week over week for those prior 2 Fridays. Last Friday, that age group saw a 6% increase.
Since DeWine's announcement, several governors following suit to encourage residents to get the vaccine. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan also announcing a lottery with one grand winner to take home $40,000.
You guys weren't expecting that one, were you?
And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing a $5 million grand prize as well. These types of incentives might just be the extra boost necessary for a country that rests on the brink of returning to a new normal. According to Dr. David Ash, a professor of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, some rewards might work better than others.
What I like about the system in Ohio is that it trades on emotion. It's very exciting. And I think harnessing that kind of excitement towards this important social purpose is a really good idea.
He says a transactional incentive like giving a direct monetary payment for getting the vaccine might potentially backfire.
In creating a payment for something, you were saying, well, why do I need to get paid? Maybe this could elevate concerns that people already have. I'm not sure that's true for some of the other kinds of incentives, like Ohio's sweepstakes-based incentive, which is largely focused on, getting a big prize.
Perks are, of course, only one of many reasons why people hesitant of getting a vaccine may ultimately decide to do so. A study conducted by the de Beaumont Foundation interviewing a group of people on the fence shows a desire to return to normal with their family and loved ones often marks the tipping point.
Honestly, rather than there being a moment that I learned something, it was more like as time went on, the balance of things that I wanted and that I wanted for my daughter, and I want to travel and I want to get back to normalcy. Those things sort of started to tip the scale.
And while vaccine hesitancy is certainly one huge challenge, equitable access to vaccines remains a stark barrier for many. For example, 37% of potentially undocumented Hispanic adults report they want a vaccine as soon as possible, but have yet to receive one. Many cited concerns such as the risk of having to miss work from side effects or the distance to the nearest vaccine site as to why they were unable to access the vaccine. With about 40% of American adults still yet to get their first dose, expanding access to vaccines and convincing those on the edges of getting one will be a critical task over the months to come.
Hey, NBC.
That's a 100% fact. But niggas ran out, was sold out, and migrants migrated here and didn't have to get a vax. But like I said, this video is about the Boule, the house, Negro, bourgeois, and the rest of them, y'all. So for those who don't know, buckle up your seats, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be a rough ride, buddy. Introducing Steve Cooper.
Numerous fraternities and groups in our
Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill them. They sent some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. His master.
You're a simple, weak motherfucker, but that's besides the point. Well, let me tell you something. I am a Greek, and I don't play that.
You got your head stuck so far up your ass with your Harvard education and your bullshit, pretentious, puppy ways. Brother man, I'm blacker than you. I'm keeping it real. I'm about it. I got the rule. You're just fronting trying to be right.
I'm an orange.
Yeah.
A Stella.
Yeah.
Stella.
Yeah.
Busy as you colored colleges with your fraternity things and white shoes. I see you all the time with your folks tucked on their arms, running through your houses. They teaching you how to be a man. Run this world for you? No. Just how to read books and talk like they do.
Tell us the history of Boule, who the Boule are, their origins, and the relationship to the ruling class.
This secret society, this particular black secret society today is the first of the black Greek societies, Sigma Pi Phi. For most of our people, Masonry is a form of secret society. There are other well-known secret societies like Skull and Bones at Yale, and it is that society that the black society modeled itself after. Boule, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave. But the Greek words, what we're looking for, the advisors to the king, the lower house of the Greek parliament is called Boule. And in its history book, and this is their logo is a Grecian sphinx, an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargoyle. And this logo, this symbol is a guardian animal. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
How is the Boule different than the numerous fraternities and groups in our community? What is your relationship to the ruling class?
Nine make up the axis of the Black Greek dynasty. There are 4 male societies, 4 female societies, and the Boule make the 9th one. Those societies tend to make up a aristocracy. We talk in the park about the 10%. Not in the sense of us in exclusivity, but them in the terms of deputizing 10% of the population to ensure that the 90% that was kept on.
All right, Uncle Tom's, Aunt Jemima's, Oreos, Coons. You've heard all of these names before, I'm sure of it. Especially if you're black. But the word that you hear floating around the most would happen to be Tom.
We know now that the Boule, which is a black elite society started by the Skull and Bones at Yale, and a black elite society, the Boule, which is the people who basically are chosen by the United States government to run the black neighborhood, whether it be Afrocentric consciousness, whether it be civil rights all-star, whether it be Bible Belt gospel, or whatever they have infiltrated all forms of society. The Boule, Sigma Pi Phi fraternity. And basically, Tom is found in the black community and make sure that we are always at a deficit when it comes to getting ahead. We are marginalized when it comes to rising to our own aspect, because we always have this infiltration and this agent community that is not someone that's infiltrated amongst the grassroots, but the very heads of policymakers.
You say the Boule is like the black elite?
Yes.
The black elite that tries to prevent black people from
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And whenever we do get some crumbs, it is always guided and controlled by the Europeans, and they make sure that we don't govern our own selves. You see, even when we think we're making a decision, the Boule and the government is behind that, because the first rule in the occult technology of power, which is the Illuminati handbook, is always be a part of all groups, fund everything. We fund the radical and the conservative. So even the most radical, a lot of times, have infiltration and can be backed by the same ruling power, because they really don't care, because they're a secret society. So they even fund the radical. This is a form of mind control.
Let's define Uncle Tom, what it means in a dictionary. Uncle Tom, a black man considered by other blacks to be subservient to whites. Now, if you don't know what the word subservient means, it means excessively submissive.
Every day the same shit. Profanity.
tell you something. I am a Greek, and I don't play that. You talk more shit than a little bit. Back to Mother Africa. That's bullshit. Without question, we are all black Americans. So you can want to see your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Boy, you need to check that alarm clock and wake up.
And controversial book entitled Stupid Black Men, How to Play the Race Card and Lose. Larry is here.
You said it, Wolf.
Yeah.
You said it.
I said what?
You said Stupid Black Man. Thank you for...
Stupid Black Men, the title of this book, and that's a controversial title, How to Play the Race Card and Lose. You got to explain how you came up with this title, because the title alone is generating a lot of commotion out there.
Which proves my point. My point behind the book, Wolf, is that white racism is no longer a major problem in America anymore.
Relates to Kramer in this. Kramer used the N-word repeatedly. Does that bother you?
No, that doesn't bother me. Black folks, especially racist black, have the freedom of expression when it comes to the issue of race and morality. But white folks are made to be quiet.
They always look happy and appreciate it.
Black folks have relations without being married and stuff like that out of control. And it's not because they lack material things, but because most of them lack moral character. Look what they did to the dome. In 3 days, they turned the dome into a ghetto.
Basically, black men dressing like bitches. We talked about that yesterday with Billy Porter. And then come to find out, Billy Porter is married to a white man. Kamala Harris is married to a white man. But these house niggas be in the community advocating black, black, black. And in reality, they worship Mr. Charlie. You see what I'm saying? They worship Mr. Charlie. We come to find out little Billy is married to a white man also. And he's part of the Divine Nine. Sad, man.
They have at the church on their website is, commitment to the black community, commitment to the black family, adherence to the black work ethic. Is it racist?
If it's absolutely racist.
Are they worshiping Christ? Are they worshiping African things black?
Barack Obama is associated with a racist church.
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolence. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's just American life. American life.
With the help of these
Is
niggas.
beset on all sides by the energies of the selfish and the tyranny of evil and evil. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost Jews. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord, when I lay my vengeance upon thee, upon thee, upon thee.
There we have house niggas, the Boule. But we're going to get into another topic with Steve Coakley where he breaks it down, the origins of the Boule. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, go get your popcorn, whatever you have, and we're going to get into this video.
Athlete who wrote the history.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Hey, welcome to Southern California, KPFK, Brother Steve Coakley.
Hey, good evening, brother.
One of our great researchers that have exposed the Boule, a phenomenon that most of us in the movement never knew about until you came and brought light, took the sheets off of these Negro Klan members and explained to us what the Boule is all about. What I'd like you to do is tell us the history of the Boule, who the Boule are, their origins, and the relationship to the ruling class.
Like he said, Negro Klan members, the Boule.
Yes. Thank you, brother. I would thank you for hosting me and my friends here, and appreciate you and all your company. Everybody's excessively intense, and that is the demand of the day. This secret society, this black this particular Black secret society that we'll talk about today is the first of the Black Greek societies, started in 1904. And that word that you said, Boule, is actually an acronym. It's a Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma Pi Phi, 1904 in Philadelphia. And for most of our people, we are not prepped to the responsibility of secret society in the American society. And this founding constitution, this illegal criminal enterprise, was a Masonic affair. And Masonry is a form of secret society. There are other well-known secret societies like Skull and Bones at Yale, of which this corrupt president and his father were members of. And it is that society that the Black society modeled itself after. So when they wrote their first history book, The History of Sigma Pi Phi, by a very noted Black author, University President Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book for the Elks, the Prince Hall Masons, National Council of Negro Women, Alpha Phi Alpha, and Sigma Pi Phi. And as a result, in there, in page 28 of its first history book, it noted that it wanted to be like Skull and Bones at Yale. It was right here in Los Angeles at the Good Life on a Friday night. If you remember this time, the NAACP had a convention here, and LeGrand Klieg and Marley Gibbs were accused of making inflammatory statements.
Working with Dr. Graham's book, The Mannequin Motif.
Yes, that weekend, the Boule was meeting here, July of 1990. They were having their twice every other year convention, biannual. And it was a front page article in the LA Times by Karen Grigsby Gates, who denoted that these elite Black men were meeting in Los Angeles at this time. That was the first. I remember sending someone to the car to bring it in, and we read it from the stage of the Boule on July 18th, the day the story appeared, front page LA Times. And I thought it was unusual that the LA Times knew of this society, and I didn't know of them. Now, for our audience to understand, I'm starting off trying to explain to Black people the impact of international policy groups like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, when the bankers began to take over the American cities in the 70s, New York 75, Cleveland 77, Chicago 79, and here in California they used Proposition 13 to suck up the surplus out the budget, and bankers began to take over from municipalities the governing of the cities. And as I was scratching, I could not figure out how was there such Black complicity in this centralization of worldwide power, the New World Order. It's on the dollar bill, pyramid by white men who never built one, never saw one, but they emulated this symbol. And now comes a series of societies, and now comes forth this Black one in 1904. As we began to read deeper, it had another analogy in the story of the Skull and Bones. It wasn't until we got the history book that the analogy that looked happenstantial in the story in the LA Times was actually deeper in the actual history book, where they drew attention to Skull and Bones. It denoted that W.E.B. Du Bois was a member, and it began to describe people, influential people in the present-day society, and historically, our university, historically Black college presidents are primarily coming out of this, advisors to the king. And that word, that Boule word, can be looked up in a encyclopedia, where now people don't use them, they use internet. And that's a dangerous thing, a dangerous dependency. But Boule, B-O-U-L-E, the Greek version. There's a French version that's a coming together, a conclave, the AKA called their convention, the Boule. But the Greek word is what we're looking for, the advisors to the king. The lower house of the Greek parliament is called Boule. And if you know the American congressional system, Senate, 6 years, more power, authority, only 100. 2 per state. Congress, 435, have to run every 2 years. Your lower house has less power and authority. So it appears as if, in finding the Boule, that within it was a subordination to something else. And in its history book, it drew attention. Here's a logo. And this is their logo is a Grecian sphinx. It's an animal. And this Grecian sphinx is similar to a griffin or a gargoyle. Kind of ironically, the Boule had their convention in Los Angeles in 1941. And where else? Griffin Park. And this logo, this symbol, is a guardian animal
This would be similar to a Rottweiler or a dog or a German Shepherd. They tend to protect something higher than itself.
Let me ask you a question. I went to Howard University, for instance, and a number of African so-called Greek societies, fraternities, as well as in our community, there's a number of secret, semi-secret organizations. How is the Boule different than the numerous fraternities and groups in our community? What is the relationship to the ruling class?
Father, son. The nine make up the axis of the Black Greek dynasty. There are 4 male societies, 4 female societies, and the Boule make the 9th one. They're the first, 1904 series, the Alphas. I'm not versed in the exact order, but I have all of their history books. And each of them draw attention to things where they got their ritual from. The Deltas draw attention to Freemasonry. Said our ritual came from Mary Church Terrell, whose husband, Robert Terrell, was head of the Masonic Lodge in Washington, D.C. Mary Church Terrell, Mary Church, is the daughter of the first black millionaire in America, Robert Church of Memphis, Tennessee. Huge mausoleum to him there. Those societies, those 4 male, those 4 female, and the Boule tend to make up a aristocracy. We talked in the park about the 10%. Not in the sense of us in exclusivity, but them in the terms of deputizing 10% of the population to assure that the 90% never catch on. And it's very important to know that if you look to Alpha Phi Alpha website, there's alphas, kappas, Qs, and Phi Beta Sigma. There's Zeta Phi Beta, Delta Sigma Theta, AKA, and Delta, I'm missing somebody, Sigma Gamma Rho. If you look to, say, the Alpha website, they brag about being 95% of all black lawyers. Now, if the Alphas are 95% of the black lawyers, what does that leave the Kappas, the Qs? Okay, now we're in the 90s. They claim to be 65% of the black accountants, the lawyers, the doctors, dominating. And it may be that our professions are dominated by people in the Greek societies. At Howard, there was a student that I tried to help get a doctorate in engineering. Very exclusive about giving them out. If you get one, you're set for life. Morgan State, Howard are very exclusive. Took big money from governments to make engineers, but the brothers weren't coming out. And when we got deeply involved, we found how close-knit, how selective the professional process is. So he ended up at the patent office. He was a Kappa. He said, we have 15 blacks, 1 female, 14 brothers, and all 14 of us are Kappas. Only Kappas going to get in here. And there are jobs all over where we think we're applying for something fair and open. But I would suggest that the ruling class recognized this was a very significant period, Didon, when they decided that they would give a college degree to a person of African ancestry in America who after Reconstruction should have been pretty pissed off. And so they were very weak about it to Africans in America. Only 2,000. So there was this thing they went through, a born man versus the made man. The born man, the king and the queens of Europe, had to deputize people to colonize the lands, the Columbuses and the Cecil Rhodeses who went to Africa. They weren't the aristocracy, but they fought to be gladiators and colonists and explorers. The Lewis and Clark, who were Masons, these men used the societies to advance the wishes of the ruling class, and they set up a system, a circle within a circle, within another circle. Each circle protected the circle within it. So when you look to that Boule logo, you see there's an urn. There's an animal with the wing of the bird, the tail of a lion, and it's got a...
Who has that sign tattooed on their chest, ladies and gentlemen? I'll wait. Who has this symbol tatted on their chest that everyone bow down to? LeBron James. He never went to college. He got drafted right out of high school, right? So you have to go to college to become part of the Divine Nine. So how did he get his stripes and was able to get this Boule symbol tatted on his chest?
Urn, and it's got its paw over the urn, and it says in the history book number 2 by Hobart Jarrett that in the urn are the names of the people who are chosen to lead the state. which suggests that part of the society function is not to make known who the people of power and authority are. And one of their most serious indictments to this society is what they were used to do against Marcus Garvey.
Can you explain that, please?
Marcus Garvey, who began to surge for Africa, the Negro is breaking free, doesn't have a good reason to get with the white American establishment.
You're right.
They don't have a good reason.
They're not getting paid.
They just built the country, got set free, didn't get the 40 acres and the mule, got reconstructed when they began to move into the southern houses and the Senate. They got reconstructed and knocked back. So there's disarray in our community. And this is before the industrial cities of Chicago and others began to have steel and what do you call it? The stock markets. These are cattle, not bonds, where people began to work in the South, fled to the North to work in those factories. And Robert Abbott, who was a Boule man from Chicago defender, who it was a period when all the black editors were brought into Washington and told that they would have cracked down on Marcus Garvey, and their newspapers were not to be used. The Pittsburgh Courier, Chicago Defender, the Afro-American in Baltimore and Washington. All of these are Boule families, the advisors to the king, this group. So when Marcus Garvey came, whites began to think that maybe assimilation is better. Maybe we can escalate. Let's not let these go. Maybe they don't seem too pissed off about all of this. Maybe they'll forgive these things we did to their ancestors, and maybe we can trick them, have a little, want some more. So as Garvey began to move, they began to see that a Harlem Renaissance could have been necessary, that they could then attract Africans in America into literature and science and the arts and poetry. And when he said back to Africa, he's trying to get to Liberia. So R.R. Moulton, who was a big Boule man from Tuskegee University, who replaced Booker T. Washington, R.R. Moulton became a spy for the U.S. government to coordinate the program against Marcus Garvey in America. We have declassified documents that came out in 1993. The Memphis Commercial Appeal did the story about Martin King, Kwame Ture. A lot of things came out about spying. Well, in that, which did not make the public press, when we actually filed for the documents, there was R.R. Moulton telling Blondie Mon at Military Intelligence, don't tell anyone what I'm going to tell you about what Marcus Garvey said last night in Harlem. You know, and the letters marked confidential. And of course, eventually, R.R. Moulton, who went to Liberia, was given $5 million to form a committee to keep Marcus Garvey out of Liberia. He never made it. He wanted to get there bad. They put $5 million. Now, $5 million in 1919, man, this is 50 million, 100 million today. Inconceivable. And they rewarded R.R. Moulton for trying to undermine Marcus Garvey. He got the first, check this deep, he got the first black veterans hospital in the United States at Tuskegee. And then what did they give him for reward? Syphilis.
Wow.
You see the reward? Yeah, see, he got something. But what they got was bad, what they gave him,
So let me ask you, so in essence, what you're saying is that the Boule represents the buffer class, the petit bourgeois, the comprador buffer class that manages Africa's workers, peasants, students, and middle class in many ways, and are paid well for that. And they receive their direct orders from the European capitalist class.
Yes, if you were to look to today, where Boule members like Vernon Jordan, who is managing director of Goldman Sachs, he took Bill Clinton to his first Bilderberger meeting in 1971. The black man took the white man from Arkansas to the big international meeting. Vernon Jordan, former head of the Urban League, who groomed Ron Brown, who then went on to become Secretary of Commerce, killed in a plane crash, murdered, because Boule are considered domestic. Martin King was Boule. Look at the relationship between Martin and Kwame over going against the war. You don't hear anybody in the African Singer community.
I told y'all Martin Luther King was part of the Boule. You know what I mean? He meant well, but he was part of the Boule. Selling out his own people, y'all. Think about it, y'all. Think about it.
Primarily against the war. They're basically accepting it or looking for what they try to get when whites are passing out things like, a grant here, this or that. They don't appear to be focused on that money that's being wasted, those billions of dollars.
You say African and Afro-Centered community?
Africans.
Support the war?
They are not, no, I'm just saying, they are not pushing against the war.
Yeah.
Same way Martin King,
I understand what you're saying.
when April 4th of 67,
you're right.
1 year before he was killed to the day, when he came out of Riverside Church with Kwame in a shirt and tie in the front row, waiting to hear, because he calls it, you got to hear this. He comes out against the war. Boule men are told to be domestic, not international. Mickey Leland was Sigma Pi Phi. He tried to stop a starvation going on in Ethiopia, Somalia. His plane crashes into the mountain. Congressman from Texas, he dies. Ron Brown, Martin King, no question, Martin King became international, and that became his biggest sin. He was financed by some of the greatest foundations America ever had to offer. But if they get beyond the defined limit, then there's trouble.
In terms of young people today who are on college campuses who want to join fraternities and sororities, what is your advice?
It's interesting, the movie Stomp the Yard. I thought that was an interesting attempt to try to reconstruct the options, because they are catching hell in the streets. There is a rise of Kemetic-centered, African-centered societies that are repudiations of Greeks. And this is on the rise on many of the campuses around the country. And many of those fraternities and sororities, like the American military, were finding reduced numbers, questions of hazing and brutality. And see, that's an important thing about a secret society, is the initiation or the ritual, which is an act of submission. I would never want anyone to underestimate when someone goes on that line and they beat them, or they make them do things or unusual things or ridicule them, that act is an act of submission, and that's very essential to keeping a secret society in order. How do you command that subordination? And so for today, when they're on the campuses, they see the Boule. If you look to the Boule Journal, you can look up SigmaPi5.net. You can hit up my website, stevecoakley.com, and then you can link into their website. You look at their Boule Journal, you see what they play up. They're the head of everything. They're announcing every key position they have. They're the advisor. They're every person, every corporation. They're the black head of American Express. We can just walk on down the line of those that rose were theirs and only theirs. No one got past. I noticed that Harold Washington, our black mayors were uniquely Boule. Andy Young when he was Atlanta, Dinkins when he was New York, Bradley when he was Los Angeles. But none of those men were able to groom their man. So Bradley was mayor 20 years, but didn't have Bradley too. Dinkins couldn't turn it over to anybody. Them white folk walked and beat on his door to run him out. Different cities. Detroit, Coleman Young was not a Boule member. Harold Washington was not a Boule member. And the relationship between the white financial firms and Harold Washington was uniquely different than it was with men who were more trusted.
Brother Steve.
Yeah, it just made me think about something we had talked about. As a young brother in Chicago, really wanting to get involved in the movement. When I came back from college, there were various options. Was in Chicago, and the black politics at 75 was still dominated by Mayor Daley. Ralph Metcalf, who was the first person to break away, whose assistant was Harold Washington, who eventually became the mayor. That first congressional district, which Bobby Rush, former Black Panther, is the congressman in now. That district, we had Hakeem Mahabuti there. Bobby Wright was on the west side. The NAACP, the Urban League.
Elijah Muhammad.
I was going to say, the minister actually came to Chicago just a couple of years later when Elijah Muhammad died, and he was brought in from New York and then stripped by Wallace D. And he stayed in Chicago. With that period of coming back, there was not a lot of things to get involved in. As I'm scratching, I found a book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. It's a white, right-wing kind of guidebook. And it says sometimes some things about us are communists or something. But I looked through that and I saw relationships with General Electric and Exxon Mobil. And I looked at all, and these relationships I started to research. It wasn't until I found them in Chicago that Chicago accepted what I was trying to say. We used to have one radio show came on WJPC, Johnson Publishing, who is Boule, Ebony Jet, etc. And Vernon Jarrett was the host of the show, who I didn't know was head of the Boule at that time, Chicago Tribune columnist, started AXO for the NAACP. And one day I called in and I was trying to explain some of this stuff, and he cut me off. He said, we're not going to have any of that. I didn't know he was Boule. When I ended up becoming special assistant to the mayor, the other special assistant was Erwin France, who was head of Model Cities under Mayor Daley. He was an alpha like the mayor, they buddies, all of this and that, but I was a threat to him, but I didn't know at that time he was head of the Boule. It wasn't until later, and then that's when I went to my friends, my African-centered friends in Chicago, and said, hey man, I'm researching these white folks, and I think I found the black folks connected to the white folks, and then I started finding black folks' names, African-centered black folks' names. Jay Carruthers, you know, and Jay Carruthers is my hero in Chicago. He's in a group with Bobby and Conrad and Bob Starks, a lot of people, Anderson Thompson, people I love. He said, man, we got to talk. Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. And I started looking up other names. I saw Asa Hilliard's name. And so I felt that as I began to get deeper into this relationship, I began to notice that my African-centered friends were less happy about me getting to the bottom of this. And they wanted to focus me on, I remember they taking me in a room, I used to work for Bobby Wright. I remember them taking me in the research room, they had put this map of the United States, and they had all these little pin boards on Montana, Utah, Wyoming. Said, now we want you to focus on these guys. I said, well, what bank do they run? And I was trying to say that the First National Bank of Chicago was Chase Manhattan, because the guy who left Chase came to Chicago, took it over. Well, time came. First National Bank of Chicago merged with Bank One of Ohio. They merged with the National Bank of Detroit. That's the region. They all merged with Chase, who had just merged with J.P. Morgan. Mm-hmm. And now Rockefeller got the banks from New York all the way to Chicago, nonstop. Every one of them locked down. But the Chicago was resistant to accepting this focus. See, why aren't our people focused on ExxonMobil? Why are no protests against high-ass oil prices, you know? I make my children know who's on the boards of all these corporations, the private equity firms that own all of the stock, Vanguard, Wellington, Global, Barclay Global. These companies are obscure to our community. We're not knowing, we're not focusing on the white supremacy that's coming at us. The Klan is not a threat to our African community. They're not coming in the neighborhood, but Chase and Goldman Sachs and Lazard Perez and Standard & Poor's and Moody's, obscure bond rating companies that can control cities that our people don't mess with, you know. Mm-hmm. I showed in Chicago and Cincinnati, which had one of the best boycotts of any city. Right. It is. I mean, it was, and it still went on. Just last weekend, they tried to come back with a big festival. Mary J. Blige pulled out. Some more people pulled out. Kind of made it lose money. Mm-hmm. And but there in Cincinnati, we targeted 3 people: the Taft family, which runs the state, Skull and Bones. Mm-hmm. Taft family still today. The governor was just left as governor. We targeted Procter and Gamble, and we targeted Carl Linder, who owned Chiquita Bananas. Mm-hmm. And when we got through harassing Chiquita Bananas, some of our friends at the radio station there had stock, $119 a share. When we finished with him, it went to $5.40 a share, and he sold Chiquita. Now, what I'm trying to say is there's a vulnerability in America that has not been exercised by our community because our secret societies have been pledged never to tell us those vulnerabilities. They work for them. They patch them. They protect them. They act like they don't exist, but they serve them. Mm-hmm. And they never utter against them, even never whisper to us. Mm-hmm. If you saw on that Boule tape when we were there messing at the convention, mm-hmm. I told my buddies, we're not here to recruit them. We don't want them to be better brothers. We want to warn them that if they're the guard dog on white supremacy, when we jump the fence, what you going to do? You're going to bite, you're going to fight, or you're going to run out and let us get to who we after. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how do we get to who we after when we got all this wing and wang out here, all this distraction, mm-hmm. all this misfocusing, and then is there complicity in our community? When some people killed Martin King, when some people killed Malcolm X, did that neutralize our present leadership? Mm-hmm. Who are byproducts of assassination? Mm-hmm. Did this put us in a bind? Do we have a lot of old paper out there that white folks work when they want to keep us in a bind that we don't seem to talk back? Mm-hmm. How can they make $10 billion in 90 days mm-hmm. in an oil company that was broken up when a white woman attacked them in 1911? Tarbell, they broke them companies up, them Standard Oils. And then they brought them all back together. Exxon got with Mobil, Chevron got back with Texaco, and all the things Rockefeller broke up got put back together.
Let me ask you a question. So would you say, because it seems to be the common denominator of all the corporations in the system you're talking about, is capitalism / imperialism. So that in fact, organizations that are anti-capitalist as a theoretical formulation and specifically target these multinational corporations, oligarchies. That is the path of liberation for African people and destruction of this economic and political system. And maybe that's why also in this historical period we exist today, you find that very few so-called African nationalist or progressive organizations are anti-capitalist. In fact, what they're saying is we want to be part of the system as opposed to attack capitalism, but we want black capitalists instead of European capitalists.
And you know, it's the one thing we have to be careful for as time has progressed. If you were to go to Toynbee Hall in London when they created social work, when the rich felt it was necessary to infiltrate the poor so that they aspired through the tentacles of the rich that had been spread out amongst them, that if you fought capitalism all day and you ended up not fighting the social service network, you would find there's another aspect that might not even pledge to be capitalist at all, might pledge to be helping the people.
But most of the social service networks are either financed by nonprofits, churches, foundations, the state, cultural affairs departments of different colleges, different cities, some we go down a whole list of funding sources. Right. So in the final analysis, if we go after the capitalist system as a theoretical formulation, but pinpoint, as you say, with laser hair focus, the specific corporations as a category to be assessed, especially in terms of the impact upon African people, like you say, the Poor's, the Standard, and these multiple bond associations that finance or definance infrastructure in our communities, and as capitalists now going to Iraq and Afghanistan to build their economic and social structure at the expense of ours.
There is a web. There is a web. There's sports. There's the media. They're education. They're social service. They're astronauts. They're the church. They are all of that. They are the secret societies too. And they all work in a loose-knit fashion, and they keep disagreements within a manageable limit. Let me just say a couple things real quick.
We've got about 60 seconds. And I want you
this
to
Saturday,
the website.
This Saturday at the FIBA Center, I'm going to give a free lecture. This Saturday, the Los Angeles South Central Study Group, been meeting there for 7 years, 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. this Saturday at the FIBA Center on 57th and Crenshaw. September 11th, we're going to Washington, D.C. The adverse impact of 9/11 on the African Center community must be articulated. We are faceless in the scheme of terrorism and misappropriated finances of Iraq, etc. This Saturday, 10 o'clock, stevecoakley.com. You can reach me at area code 202-256-2097. Area code 202-256-2097. Don't send me no email on that website. I won't read it. Call me.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Coakley. Steve Coakley on the origins of the Boule. That's a fact. A 100% fact. So I just wanted to come up, ramble, show y'all a video of how our people been selling us out for years, y'all. Our people's been selling us out for years, y'all. And that's a 100% fact. But with that being said, y'all, to the next time. Stand on your square. Most definitely put the Most High first. And stay vigilant. And watch your own peoples. They're here to sell you out. They're most definitely here to sell you out. With that being said, until the next time, peace.